And welcome everybody to race 13 of the 2020 F1 Championship, Emilia Romagna. Emilia Romagna. And I'm sure that will get pronounced slightly differently when it gets to the right person, the expert. But that's what it's going to be for me. I don't know who Emilia is. All I can say is she must be a hell of a woman. That's all I'm saying. She's going to have that many teams in her at one go. Anyway, we'll pass on from those jokes, and I'm going to pass you straight over to Fabio for the race recap this week. So over to you, Fabio, the fantastic.
Which is usually not my cup of tea, but I'll try to do my best. So beautiful track. All the drivers seems to be stoked about it. There were rumors, or people were mostly afraid about the fact that it's a very difficult track to see overtakes, and that was quite the case. But the few that we saw were, I think, worth the effort. So race start was Bottas ahead. Verstappen pulled the same trick that let's see if I can remember who the hell did that. Boy, I can't remember. I think it was a Williams, in the good old days where they were racing at Imola. But anyway, Verstappen managed to go on the tail of Bottas, overtaking Lewis. Not People would say, also because of a really weird positioning that he put himself, on the starting line, but that wasn't deemed as a big problem anyway. So this is how the race went, basically, for most of the time. So Verstappen ahead, Bottas, in front. Sorry, Bottas in front, Verstappen second, and Lewis third. In the back, there was some mishap with Vettel and a Force India, which was later to be found really important for the race, because apparently an end plate from Vettel got stuck in Bottas' car, and that was a big problem for him. He caused aerodynamic problems. He fell down in third position at the end of it, mostly because of that problem. It was overtook by Verstappen at the end of the race, basically. But he had huge aerodynamic issues. Gasly had a big misfortune. He had to retire the car because of terminal problems with his car. Something which have to do with the cooling system, stuff like that. What else happened? Richard, a wonderful third place. There were a funny virtual safety car which had everybody in shambles, because I think it lasted only, 20 seconds, which was just about the right time to get Lewis in the pit, change his tires, and then go ahead. And then, the virtual safety car was not there anymore, but it was so far ahead anyway that, that would not have been a problem. Then we had a proper safety car at the end of it, when everybody was trying to manage more or less their tires. It was quite interesting. Kimi Raikkonen, I think he managed to put something like 40 something laps on medium tires, which was, quite astonishing to see, and he was rewarded with a 9th place. So 2 points for the old Kimi. And other than that, the race didn't give too many big moments. There were a couple where Leclerc managed to overtake an Haas on the outside of the I can't remember the name of the corner, but it's an impossible corner to overtake on the outside. And then lately, in the last phases of the race, when he had worse tires than Kvyat, he was managed to be overtaken well, not exactly the same corner, but a couple of corners after that by Kvyat with a very good overtake. Bit of unlucky for Verstappen, which he got a piece of debris and his rear tire explode, which put him out of the games, giving the third place to Ricciardo, which managed finally remember to celebrate his podium on with a shoey, and he actually asked all the other drivers if somebody else want to partake. So keep in mind that the podium was Lewis, Bottas, another dude from Mercedes, and Ricciardo. And funnily enough, Hamilton actually accepted, I don't know if it's a challenge or, an invite or whatever. But so Ricciardo basically had to take his other shoe off and offered his other shoe to Lewis, which, I mean, it was a good sport, and, they just celebrated from Ricciardo's shoes, which was really, really funny to watch. And that's pretty much the race. I mean, other than that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's very good, very good, very good. Okay, so I mean, just to mention a couple of extra things there, which I didn't see, but nonetheless I know about, which is again Ricardo's third place was incredible drive, and once again we should mention Kimi, who I think was up to fourth at one point in the race, really late on. I mean, the guy is just incredible. The guy is incredible. What can you say? Fourth place in that piece of shit. That's just incredible. So, once again, Kimi showing he's one of the best drivers on the grid, and everybody's going, well, should he be in Formula One? That'll be the debate for the end of the season. Should he be? He's an old man. Should he? No, he's one of the best drivers on the grid still after all this time. Which shows you that when people talk about Lewis retiring because he's getting older, they're just trying to make fucking stories, aren't they? Because clearly Lewis is as fit as a butcher's dog. In fact, he's got a dog called Butch or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's an ugly dog.
The bloody vegan guy.
Oh my god, it's ugly.
Oh boy, yeah, it's ugly.
I'll tell you, man. If I think they should make Lewis have to drive Grand Prix with the dog in the car. Anyway, there you go. That's about the only handicap he's going to take. But nonetheless, when they talk about Lewis retiring because he's getting older, and how many years can he go on for? Well, another 10 easily. Okay, because he's as fit as you want. He trains excessively, obsessively probably, and as long as he's in a top team, he's got no reason to leave, I suppose. Unlike Kimi, because he's won so many championships, he probably won't carry on for that long a time because there's no point unless he's in the winning car. I guess he's not going to be that interested. Another kind of special drive I thought was Kvyat, who did really well. And I think I can't remember where he finished. I'm going to just have a quick look and find out.
Fourth.
Kvyat came fourth. So well deserved, I feel, and one of the best drives. Gasly had to pull out due to car malfunctions. We were never told what. I don't know to this moment what it was, but nonetheless, there you go. Leclerc again dragging the Ferrari up the grade to finish in fifth place, which again is a very commendable thing. They're obviously getting the Ferrari together now later on in the season as usual with Ferrari, and the car is getting better paced, although Vettel's still struggling way down there. It's very suspicious as far as I'm concerned. But
Vettel was actually quite not so unhappy about the car. I think that direction they're going with the new rear stuff is going more and more in his direction. And he was also unlucky too because he lost. I mean, the tire change. It took him 13 seconds because of a problem with the front right tire with the nut. He had some issues. And that was a shame because it was in a very good position. But yet start all again from the back, and he didn't manage to get in a good position. So, but you talked about Kimi before. Kimi and Giovinazzi, they already signed for next year contract. So Alpha 2 drivers will be Kimi and Giovinazzi. They already signed.
Yeah, and again, a good race by Gio early on. Anyway, I don't know exactly what happened to him, but he seemed to drop back after a while. But again, he started like a trooper, did very well, was quite high up. Although he couldn't follow Kimi through, so again, just showing Kimi's class really once you get to it. A dreadful mistake by Russell, George Russell, who was behind the safety car and just gave it far too much welly, shot his car off the track straight into the barrier. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. Well, he wanted to warm the tyres up. I know what he was thinking. Unfortunately, he warmed up more than the tyres. So
he warmed up the old car against the wall. But,
he warmed the wall up as well.
Yeah.
So there you go. But nonetheless, I mean, he came on the radio straight away, apologised. He took responsibility for it, of course. And I think he's signed for next year now, so never mind. He doesn't have to worry so much. But nonetheless, he was in a good position again. He may have even scored a point in that race had he not done that. So big mistake.
Yeah, he was ahead of Kimi at the time. So yeah. Considering that Kimi got 9th. Even if he got overtake, I mean, he had good chances to get in the first 10.
Yeah, for sure. So, unusual race. The track looked fantastic, as you said, quite correctly. And as was predicted by various of the drivers, there wasn't much straight overtaking, although the tactics were quite interesting.
Yes.
So that was good, and I say, with the retirements, it led to quite an interesting time. Albon finishing way down, last of the runners. I can't remember exactly what happened to him, but it was a big mistake by Albon again. He was in a good position to capitalise, and he just threw it away. Can you remember what happened to him exactly?
I mean, to be totally honest, I don't. I think that the best thing that Albon can do right now is to finish his collection of pass from this season, and then end up, because that is probably everything which is going to last him. So it's I see him in a very, very, very bad situation. I don't see him as being renew the contract any soon.
Yeah, he's just in the wrong team to be given to be shown some love, etc. So there you go, really. Again, once he was in 10th place, I think, at the time, or something like that. Once Verstappen had gone out, he could have easily capitalized there. But I think he just hang on a minute, let's just have a quick look. Just trying to find it. Oh yeah, it was on the restart, wasn't it? He got tied up with somebody on the restart. Who was it? Perez or someone?
Yeah.
Perez went round the outside. Was it Perez? Oh yeah. Perez went round the outside, and in an effort to keep on his tail and overtake him down the next straight, he just gave it too much boot coming out of one of the chicanes and spun into the gravel. Again, you could tell that the guy was shattered, because he came on the radio going, I don't know if I was hit, and no, he wasn't hit. He literally just gave it too much boot coming out, and then got a little tap, but he'd already lost it by then. So he knew straight away. I think in his heart of hearts, he knew that was it for him. That was the moment which defined his leaving the team. So.
Yeah, which is I think it leaves a very weird situation in Red Bull because of the driver situation. Because they have confirmed Verstappen, but the whole thing with Red Bull is kind of tricky because Red Bull was famous for having a lot of young drivers, pressing by to get into their cars, and that doesn't seems to be, the it doesn't seem to be what's happening right now, because they have the same drivers in Toro Rosso. I think they're gonna have there is a new driver coming in Toro Rosso, which name escapes me right now. But who are they going to put on the second Red Bull? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it can only be well, as far as I'm concerned, it can only be the Hulk. That's the only sensible decision. You're going to need somebody there or I mean, they could take Perez, but I doubt it. Perez has also got a bit of a history of not getting on with teammates, whereas the Hulk is just Mr. Professional. He doesn't care who he's racing. He'll just do what he does and get on with it. Plus, he is a very fast driver, and he's a safe pair of hands in terms of bringing cars home. And he's not going to, at this late stage in his career and given the second chance, etc., be trying to be the one that's going to beat Verstappen. He is going to be quite happily take second place and be a second driver just to get the pay, right?
It's going to be Verstappen's Bottas. That's what you mean.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Verstappen's Bottas, or Michael's Massa, or or Michael's Barrichello, or Michael's Eddie Irvine, or I'm still not bitter about it. Okay.
No, you're not bitter at all. Jesus Christ. I think they're making a mistake with Irvine, but yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. No. There's been there was an interview. He did an interview saying that's why he was hired.
Well, it was hired for that, but if you remember, I can't remember the year where Michael had this really bad accident, and he tried his best to actually make Irvine win the championship. So
Silverstone, yeah, he broke his leg at Silverstone when he went into the barrier, and Eddie Irvine had a chance to become world champion that year, of course, because he was in the best car.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I can't remember who won it that year. Was it Montoya or?
Yeah, I can't.
Or Villeneuve.
But I remember that Michael tried his best to actually make Eddie win the championship, which I don't think it's that. Well, okay, no, I don't want to say that Lewis would never do that, but
Yeah, I think Lewis would do that. And I think any driver in that situation would do that, to be perfectly honest, because mathematically there was no way Michael could win the championship, and that's the reason he threw everything behind Eddie, because he took too many races off recovering, But nonetheless, that's anyway, that's the thing. But I mean, you should hear. I mean, Irvine talking about Schumacher. He couldn't blow enough smoke up that arse to fill a fireworks display. So there you go.
Anyway,
I think it'd be Hulkenberg anyway. That was my roundup for why it's Hulkenberg. He seems like a safe pair of hands, and he's going to do what the team say and support the strategies of Verstappen to try and get him to be a world champion.
Alonso was seen in the pits during this weekend, and I read that that Renault asked all the other teams, to have Alonso try the car in the last, after in the post-season test, the one which happened
the rookies test, yeah.
Right. So they asked everybody, to do that, and everybody but one team was quite okay with that, and the one team being the fourth seed. Well, it's not the fourth seed, yeah. It's the
no, Tracing Point.
Tracing Point, yeah. So yeah, because like you, they can keep, they can actually take like a champ, and to say, oh no, not Renault, because you're being naughty boys. So.
Yeah. So what's the other? Oh yeah, of course. This bodes disastrously for, of course, for the engine manufacturers having a freeze on engine development.
Mm-hmm.
Right, in order that Red Bull allegedly can take over the Honda IP factory, the Honda intellectual property in the factory.
So I think the name is. Uh, I want to say Yamamoto, but I may be making a mess out
Well,
of it.
I don't think they've got a name that they're going to use yet. They usually
No,
use
no, no, no.
Ilmor.
I'm talking about the guy which is,
Oh yeah,
responsible for the F1, engines.
Honda.
He,
Yeah, Yamamoto. Yeah.
yeah, so he had a kind of an informal interview with a guy, which was reported in Italian media. And basically, what he said, so he said a couple of interesting things. The first one is that he was flying in Japan, I think today, to report to the head office in F1, in Honda, about the F1 program. And the second thing is that he said that Honda would be anyway 100% behind Red Bull for next year. So the
Yeah.
fact that they are going away doesn't mean, I mean, they will still be there, committed, as much as they did. So that's, I mean, that should be, refreshing for Red Bull, which they tried to pull a fast one by, basically saying the opposite of what they were used to say in this last spring about the engines. Now they want to, I don't know, I don't know what they want to do. They want to congeal everything. They want to, increase. I don't know what the fuck they want to do. But apparently they realized that they got a good advantage on one half of the engine manufacturers, and they want to play that card too, which is, kind of weird if you ask me. But
Yeah, okay, so this is about the 2022 season and onwards, right? Is they don't want to spend time developing the 2022 engine into 2023 and 2024 before the next upgrades come in. When is it? 2025?
Yeah.
Right. So this is the issue: is that Red Bull is saying, well, it's going to cost them an extra 200-300 million to develop the engine to keep up with Mercedes and Ferrari.
Right.
And we should have a freeze on the engines.
Yeah.
So they can just buy Honda's stuff, put it in the back of their car, and make it for the next few years.
Which is not what they said this spring,
Oh, of course not. No. When they thought Honda wanted to put in a
right.
No fucking problem. You know what I mean? It's not my money. Yeah, no, of course, engine upgrades. Of course, we need them. We need them. But now, of course, they want to just put a freeze on it because the Honda engine has caught up. Allegedly, it's like one of the most powerful engines on the grid, although it's still a little thirsty, is what I've heard. And there you go. So yeah, again, I don't think Red Bull will get this through. I hope they won't get it through because the point of these engines really, and the reason I don't want them to put it through is Ferrari engine needs an upgrade. They need to do something to catch up with Mercedes
and finally
get back what they've lost.
Yeah, and finally, I think that the most vocal against it was the guy from Renault, whose name I refuse to even try to pronounce.
Let me have a go. Is it Pierre Hihon?
Yeah,
I thought it was. Yeah. I thought it was.
Yeah. It was one of the most vocal against this thing because Renault, like Ferrari, they want to say, well, what I mean, it said something which it kind of makes sense. I mean, if you want to freeze all the engines, it's okay, you can do that, but at least you got to have similar performances between the engines, because if you don't do that, you just basically say, okay, you guys are gonna win, you're not. Yeah. You win, you don't, you do, you don't. I mean, that's preposterous, I think. I mean, no big factory wants to be associated with something that they know from the get-go that is going to be a bloodbath. So
yeah, especially if they know that they're going to have to spend a lot of money on building the engines anyway.
Right.
These engines aren't cheap, obviously. So again, I can't see either of the other manufacturers, although. Amazingly, Mercedes have already come out and said, "Yeah, we're happy to freeze our engine."
Oh, yeah, really? You don't say. That's
amazing,
weird.
Isn't it? Amazing. Yeah, the most powerful, most successful engine on the grid has said, "Yeah, we'll freeze."
Really
but
weird.
I can't see Ferrari doing it, and I would have thought that Renault have already allocated funds for engine upgrades in the next couple of years, regardless. So I can't see that they're going to want to just save the money at the risk of not being up there on the grid. So if I were them, I'd be rolling the dice anyway. So there you go. Okay, so those are the basic things. What
else?
Anything else you can think of?
No, I mean McLaren's did a meh race. It wasn't really nor here nor there. I think it's weird with McLaren. I don't know if it is a problem with the last tracks that we found that it doesn't really suit the car, or if they have some problems developing the car. I don't know, but it seemed to me that the car was way better at the beginning of the season than it is right now. What else?
I would just to go on McLaren before we move on from that. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed this, and my guess, of course, is that it's tires. It's tire related.
The tires. Oh boy.
Thank you very much.
Oh boy.
Thank you.
You almost forgot about it, for
No.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to get it in proper, and now I will. Now I'll properly get it in there. Which is the McLaren suspension seems a little dodgy on particular circuits. Normally the high end circuits, and it's obviously that they don't have the chassis stability. That would be what I would say. So the car looks great. They're unable to develop it like the other manufacturers are this year, because of course you can't develop chassis problems around chassis problems. You have to just live with them through the year, because you only get one chassis a year, especially in this game. So that would be my guess. It's a chassis related problem, and it's not going to get any easier towards the end of the year for McLaren. It'll only be on the lower downforce circuits that the McLarens can shine again, and it's mainly because the other teams have out-progressed and developed them on the aero, and they've got more stable cars. Carry on.
Talking about suspensions, that reminded me there was something really interesting which popped up this week, and it came from Haas, specifically from Grosjean and Magnussen, which they already have the return ticket in their suitcase packed up because they want And apparently they started, well, I wouldn't say spinning the beans, but they're talking way more openly than they used to, because they were fuck those guys. And so the interesting thing which popped out is, I think it was Grosjean, which pointed to the problems. What are the problems of the Haas in his opinion this year? And the reason why I'm saying it's interesting is because he pointed to a specific area of the rear suspension, which, in his words, basically what is happening is that they have some thermic excursion in the rear, and specifically in the suspension, which happens, so it is not clear whether the suspension heats off or cools down, but there's something there that they cannot basically put a good how do you call a good setup on the car, because depending if it heats or cools down, the height is different, and they have big problems on the back.
All right.
Actually, what is said is that during the race it heats up, so they don't know. I think that the problem is the other way around, is that the problem is when it cools down. But so and that might be a good explanation, because of the fact that it seems to be that they have very different performances in FP1, FP2 than in qualifying and the race. But the reason I said it's interesting is because all the rear axle is the same as at the Ferrari one. So I wouldn't put past the fact that some of the problems that Ferrari has right now this year might be the same one that Haas has.
Yeah.
I mean, the chassis is different, of course. The fluid dynamic of the back of the car is different, but I think that might be a very interesting thing, to explore, even given the fact that one of the last modification that Ferrari brought, I think it was not this race but the race before, was a new rear diffuser.
Yeah.
Which again, maybe there is something,
To that.
true and peculiar about this kind of explanation.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to think how many spin outs the Haas had early season. You would imagine there'd have been quite a few, but no.
Well, maybe they can. I mean, the problem is that if your rear is so bad that you don't even push that much, you don't
Yeah.
manage to spin. If it's really the setup which goes south, you just don't drive the car up to the point that it spins. It's not something that it just
Yeah.
bang goes.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting because that might be a very good. I mean, that might explain some of the problems that the Ferrari has. Besides the
Yeah.
fact that it's a shitty car, this year. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool.
I mean, it seems to me that the rake philosophy that they've gone for again has let them down, and that's what I would say. It seems to me that the Newey has really got a handle on how to develop that rake car. And I do remember the first couple of years when we first noticed the rake in the car, that the Red Bull was falling back somewhat. And in fact, every year they seemed to get better towards the end of the season as the car was developed and the aero package was developed on the car throughout the year.
Yeah.
So for me, they did take a few years to get that package working properly. And then again, when every other team has gone in for the high rake, they've always suffered at the beginning. Right? It seems to me that that's quite common, that it takes a little while to understand the philosophy of the high rake car and what you're trying to do and how to get the best out of it. And of course, yeah, go ahead.
No. So, I mean, I just want to say that I totally agree with you. But so it is difficult to understand, the dynamic of the chassis, with the high rake, and I totally agree with you. And I'd also say that if you also have something which, where the rake changes depending on how much of the heat, and the rear suspension doesn't work the way it's supposed to be working, that is a total nightmare, because you will never understand how to properly, make that car work, because you start with one height and then you end up with another one. So I mean, how can you make a proper setup? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
and it was interesting that I think it was, I can't remember who it was, Newey or Horner, said, with the high rake, what we're really trying to do is exploit high-speed corner turning. That's where they make most of their time, is turning into the corners. So again, if you don't know that's what you're trying to do, you're trying to set the car up, and that's why you're using this high rake approach, then of course, you're going to suffer, because you're thinking, okay, right, well, we want to keep the general speed through the corner as fast as we can, or we're trying to minimize the downforce in terms of the wing downforce right on the top, so we can get higher speeds down the straight, which certainly Red Bull seem to do, while maintaining the good downforce in the corners. Well, how do you do all of that? How do you juggle all of that and make the car faster on an average lap?
Yeah,
well,
no, it's super difficult.
Christian is telling everybody, you do it by keeping the entry speeds as high as you possibly can.
Right.
So
I mean, no, but you're right. I mean, that is something that Red Bull still masters, like I think no other car on the track. I think.
Yeah.
Well, granted, Bottas' car had some aero problems. Apparently massive aero problem. They found a piece of the end plate from Vettel this big, on the side of the car. But during the race, the engineer Verstappen's engineer, until he was racing, he was constantly telling him that the Red Bull was the fastest car in every corner, and then they
Hmm.
were losing in top speed. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. I think they still mastered that approach, the one you just described, like no other car
Mm.
on the pit right now. So yeah,
Well, but
but it's complicated.
the big time saver here, and this is why I think they struggle against Lewis in particular, is that of course if you're using higher corner speeds, right, entry speeds especially, then you're braking later,
Yeah.
right? And this is what I think Albon is struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
Right, he's struggling to keep the braking that late. He wants to be smooth race driver, and he wants to just, whereas Verstappen has understood, right, you need to jump on the brakes as late as possible, turn it in, knowing it'll stick, and then worry about the exit when you get there. And that's
You also need
not
a
the way I would
different
drive.
yeah, you also need a different sensibility as a driver, because you kind of well, I would say you cook your front tires, but your front tires, they suffer quite a lot. So
Yeah,
either by setup or just by feeding on the drivers, you need a specific set of drivers that are able to exploit that angle.
yeah,
And this is why, again, a car like the Toro Rosso, I think it is so interesting right now. I think it's one of the most interesting cars in the pit, like right now, because
hmm,
of the amount of resources that they have compared to the other guys, and the results that they managed to do. It seems to me that they really, I don't know if it's the development they did something, but there's something with that car which makes it super easy to drive
yeah,
and very, very, very effective. Even with two drivers that, Gasly, I'm to be totally honest with you, I'm totally blown away by how fast this guy is right now this year. I would never pointed anything on Gasly at the beginning of this year, but he was really unlucky, but he's really fast. And even Kvyat, we saw Kvyat on the Red Bull, right? And
mm,
it seems to me that he's driving way faster on the Toro Rosso than on the Red Bull. So that might mean that the approach of the two cars are so different, and
yeah.
the driving style just suits somebody else better than the other car.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean,
Mm.
I clearly think they're setting that alpha bollocks up for Gasly again, and so Kvyat's the one that's suffering in that team. But nonetheless, it
Yeah.
seems to me that the car is more benign,
Mhm.
and it has a wider setup range, so it's easier to set up anyway. So that's another reason why the two drivers are fairly consistent with each other. But again, they're still using the high rake philosophy, right?
Yeah.
So they're still, suffering in that respect. But again, I think this, because as we're finding out now, the high rake philosophy means that you're going to have this really, really pointy car, and
Mhm.
unless you can deal with that as a driver, and some drivers, of course, that is the antithesis of the way they've learned to drive.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Damon Hill. I'm thinking Jenson Button, who were just very smooth drivers, who just had such minimal steering input.
Mhm.
Okay, and therefore they liked cars which were neutral, right? And if you have a neutral car, then you're using less tire wear,
Yeah.
right? And you save your tires longer, and you can get more lap time that way. Now that seems to me with these high rate cars out the window completely. Okay, so I think that's some of what's going on here. Is we've got a load of drivers that have grown up in their career trying to or driving as to save tires as much as they possibly can, knowing that tire life is the thing, and doing a good job on it, and getting to Formula One and finding out that that's not the way they need to drive anymore, and they need to completely change their style
Yeah.
back to go-kart style and not care about the tyres at all, or nearly so much. And again, this is one of the reasons I feel that Lewis has got such a great advantage, is that they're not following the high rake philosophy, so he doesn't have to compromise every lap, right, and be on the edge, turning into every corner, and so he can afford to save his tires somewhat, right? And that he still manages to extract a great lap time that way. plus
Yeah.
having the natural advantage of a great Mercedes car, which seems to be a very, very solid platform.
Oh yeah, I mean, solid platform. I think is the understatement of the decade. But,
Thank you very much.
yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
yeah. Well, it's German. You'd expect it to be more like a Panzer than a Pansy, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So, we're coming up with all of them today. Yeah. So, I think those are the differences that we're seeing on the grid, and I can't see those changing for a few years yet. As long as people are going to keep trying to design the car with this high rake philosophy, right? Which
Yeah.
I don't know why all the teams are going that way. It seems to me quite strange that they wouldn't just go, okay, look, we're gonna stop doing this now because we can score more consistent points over the year, right? If we don't go down this route, rather than the one out, well, we might get a race win or we might be slightly, you know what I mean?
Well, I guess that for Red Bull, it's kind of an historic thing. There is a
Sure.
there is a lot of know-how inside that company, for
Mm-hmm.
cars which are built in a specific way, and
Yep.
they're exploiting that, and rightly so. I would say, I mean, if you have a lot of knowledge on how they properly work, you should go. I mean, you know what to expect. You're
Mm-hmm.
starting from a very better basis. But yeah, overall, I agree with you. It's a very difficult concept to put it down, and even to Red Bull, it took years before to fiddling and trying to find the proper war machine that you
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to win races.
And getting the drivers that can do it. I mean, Sebastian
Yes.
had
Yeah.
4 world titles. It
Hmm.
took Mark Webber 3 years to try to start matching. Well, I wouldn't say that. Maybe 3 years. He had to
Yeah.
start matching him and driving the same way. And of course, they took Vettel they plucked him out of obscurity, really, because
Hmm.
although he was a successful driver, he didn't look like he was the best of his generation. There were others around which were equally as fast. So that was quite strange. But they obviously knew what kind of driver they were looking for. And now that explains Verstappen,
Yeah.
right? Why they took him on so young, right? Because then why they have kept him, given him everything he ever dreamed of, because they
Right.
know that he has that driving ability that likes a really sharp front end. That's for his natural driving style. So for me, all these things are now falling into place now, and this makes sense that
Yeah.
that as long as Verstappen's at that team, they're not going to change the design of the car. They've specifically chosen Verstappen to drive that way because he can drive that way, and
Right.
that's
And
explains.
that also explains why the second drivers in Red Bull, they usually perform so poorly. I mean,
Indeed.
it's uncanny to watch. I mean, you're gonna expect your teammate, if it's not as good as you. I mean, even with Lewis and Bottas, for fuck's sake, Lewis doesn't give half a second or a second and a half every fucking time to his teammate. It's always well, yeah. I mean, it's a lot.
A couple of
10,
tenths.
yeah.
Yeah.
But a couple of tenths a lap is still a lot, but it's not half a second that Verstappen gives to Albon every bloody time. It's
Yeah.
really.
Or
It's
more. I
incredible.
mean, back
Or
at the
more,
beginning
yeah.
of the season, it was the second, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's just amazing as far as I'm concerned. But again, this shows to me that they don't understand, the drivers that they're promoting into the second place, right? Because now, well, if they picked like Verstappen because he could drive a car, if they pick Verstappen because he can drive that type of car, then why aren't they just scouring for other drivers that have the same abilities
Well,
and
because
just saying,
they.
right, we'll just promote you regardless of our program. You know what I mean? We don't have to always pick from our program.
Well,
And it's go ahead.
sorry. No, I mean, the thing is that they have to put very young drivers, because if you put somebody which is already accustomed to driving a certain way, they will not be able to drive the car. So basically, what they have to find is somebody which has never driven in his life but is naturally fast. And this is, it goes back to what we said, at the very beginning, with the situation in Red Bull. Red Bull used to be famous for having a bunch of young drivers in the back coming from their school, their academy, willing to jump on the cars, they're basically left with nobody. They're probably going to resort to Hulkenberg, but because they burned everybody else, they burned Gasly, they burned Kvyat, they burned Albon, they just destroyed all of those drivers. That I don't think that Albon is a slow driver, and Gasly and Kvyat, they showed that they're not slow drivers, but on that car they just cannot go. I mean, it's frustrating. They have no purpose to the team, because basically Verstappen has to fight by himself. It's one car against two cars, so it's a very frustrating situation for them. But
and that's why I think they're going to go with Hulkenberg, because as I recall, when Hulkenberg was a young star, he did really like a heavy front end, and he could handle a really loose car. Yeah. So I think that they would go for Hulkenberg over Perez, who he has much more established ways, and he's not so comfortable in a car which has a loose front end. His time at Sauber, going way back, and whenever the Sauber had a good solid end, he was up there. He was a real fast driver. But as soon as the next season, the season after came, Perez really started struggling again. So I think they'll go Hulkenberg if they've got any sense, and I don't think he's going to be nearly as fast as Verstappen, but I think he's a safe enough pair of hands that he'll at least start bringing it home in the points and start getting some points for the constructors, which is desperately what they need.
It doesn't also help the fact that Red Bull is really bad at dealing with drivers. On a human point of view, on a personal point of view. I think that Helmut Marko and Christian Horner, they're still waking up in the middle of the night for opposite reasons. By the way, thinking about how big of a problem they had when they basically let Ricciardo go. Because I still think that Ricciardo was the only proper one which could actually drive that car, besides Verstappen. So I think that they both wake up screaming for opposite reasons. One because he wanted to keep him, and the other one because he wanted him to go.
And, and let's not forget Vettel as well. Let's throw Vettel in the mix, right? They've just passed up Vettel.
Yeah.
Now Vettel could have driven that car.
Yes.
All right, and he could have, in theory, have challenged Verstappen, and that's why they didn't want to sign him, because they don't want a driver which is going to challenge Verstappen. They want a driver that's going to back Verstappen up. That's their mentality. That's a problem. That is a problem. So they want a driver which is fast, but not too fast.
It's because they're so committed to the fact that Verstappen has got to be the world champion.
Yeah.
That I applaud the commitment, but on the other end, this is something which is really biting them back in the ass. Because
big time.
If he doesn't, you're basically wasted everything. You had a team which won 4 world championship. It had a beautiful car, weird mechanics, very strange approach, everything, and then you just waste it because you are committed to someone which is to be fair, it's not that they are betting on a broken horse, but it's not enough. It's not nearly as good enough. The guy cannot win the world championship because Lewis and Mercedes they're basically racing in another category, and they can't win the manufacturers because you can't win with only one car, so it's a bummer.
Yeah, completely. Although they could have done something about it if they'd so chosen, right? So this goes to the point of driver mismanagement, right? They've tried to get lucky and promote a second driver in there, which they think, well, if we come up with another Verstappen, great, they'll be able to challenge Verstappen, and if not, well, they're fast drivers. We've already paid for their tuition, etc., and coming up, they've proved themselves in the lower team, right? So why not give them a go? Just roll those dice. Well, now we're finding out that's why you don't want to roll the dice. If you want to score high up in the manufacturers' championship, right? Because they've been used to finishing in third right, or second every year, right? Well, now they may not even do that.
Yeah.
And now that's going to be a fucking problem. I tell you, and right now, as far as I can see, if it wasn't for the other teams messing up, right, then Red Bull would be in a real problem this year, and they wouldn't
Yes.
have the funds to actually go and fund this, very expensive design team that they keep on. Right?
Hmm.
And then that's the beginning of the end for their team if they can't afford to design a car for next year, which is right up at the sharp end.
Yeah.
Anyway, we
Talking
will
about
see.
problems, the last thing is, Racing Point. They got to Imola. I think they were third in the champions in the manufacturers, and now I think they're fifth.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's because, I mean, let's not forget that this is where the real money is, in the
Yeah, yeah.
manufacturers championship.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it's gonna
Uh,
be an issue, but we'll see.
yeah, absolutely. And let's just have a look here. Drivers' Championship classification. Oh, it's typical. They don't have it here. They didn't even put the points in. Unbelievable. Which is I am very surprised in this thing because, of course, this race, and sorry for not mentioning this right at the beginning, and we've taken 51 minutes to say it, but Mercedes are 7 times in a row World Championship constructors manufacturer, and that is some feat and a half, I can assure you. To be able to do this and be so dominant in this period is quite outstanding. And what can we say? Helmets off to them. I'd raise my glass to you, sirs, for producing what is, a dominance that we haven't seen the like of ever in Formula One, except maybe going back to the early days of Mercedes. And so, yeah, that's an incredible. It doesn't look likely to stop for next year either, despite the fact they've lost their engine guy. And there you go.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, that's another opportunity for Red Bull, right? Which is they could just hire what's his name, Andy Cowell,
Yeah.
and stick him on their new Honda engine and develop the fuck out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that undoubtedly would be amazing. The fact that they're bitching so much probably means that Andy Cowell's already turned them down. Otherwise, they'd be just going,
Yeah.
well, no, we're happy with engine development,
Yeah.
So, although I'm happy about that because obviously I want Lewis to win as much as possible before he retires. I'm disappointed in the fact that, such a great talent in the engine manufacturers, engine design area, isn't going to go to the Red Bull team.
I
Although
think
I
I
wouldn't
think
blame him.
no, well, I think it would be easier for Cowell to go to Ferrari than Red Bull, and I think the reason is that uh, if with the IP of Honda, I mean Honda is going to back up Red Bull, but I'm not really sure that they want to give away everything, to somebody else. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, I can't see why they wouldn't, considering what they did in 2008, was it, when they retired last time, when they left the sport last time?
Yeah.
I mean, they sold their team to Ross Brawn for
Yeah.
like a dollar, right?
Yes.
And that cost them 300 billion or something. I don't know, some ridiculous fucking sucking sum of money that they poured into that Honda team.
Yeah.
And they sold it for next to nothing, right? So yeah, they were happy to get out without.
And they won the championship. Yeah. Woohoo.
Yeah, well, that's another story, isn't
Yeah.
it?
I know.
That goes back to politics. F1 is about politics more than anything else. Anyway, 7 times
Yeah.
World Championships, Mercedes. Congratulations! It's a hell of a feat. Never been done before, and I'm guessing there'll be many more in the short-term future. And still haven't signed Lewis, but I'm guessing that's a formality. And hopefully Lewis can be there fighting next year for his potentially 8th. Lewis is almost certain to get 7 times world champion next time and equal Schumacher's amazing record. And just one more race to go. And then I think it'll be mathematically impossible for anyone to overtake him. And that'll be an incredible thing as well. So the dominance of Mercedes showing once again this year. And Long may it continue from my perspective. And that's everything from me. So over to you for the outro.
Yeah, I mean, next race is where it's gonna be.
Probably Turkey, I would guess.
Yeah, probably Turkey. Yeah, oh yeah, it's gonna be Turkey. They're gonna race at 11:30 in the morning, stuff like that.
Oh
So
my
yeah,
god.
yeah,
Okay.
I know. It's
Okay.
the only good thing which came out of this year was the fact that we were able to actually race on some really amazing and exciting tracks that we will probably never see in a long time. And I'm talking about Portimao, which was
Very good.
beautiful. Mugello and Imola, which again, it's the old circuits,
Yeah. Mhm.
that was brilliant. I mean, it really brought me back, a lot of years back to see, the cars starting from that pit lane. It was really good,
Yeah, I couldn't agree with more with you. The final chicane as well was.
Oh yeah.
It's just
And I
very,
mean,
very, very reminiscent.
you're racing circuits where the corners have actually names, not numbers.
Yeah.
That's something. Yeah.
Although I've got to say, Turkey, I'm also looking forward to because I always used to enjoy the racing in Turkey. So
Yeah.
that is another exciting track that we're going to. And then we will finish with the last 3 races in the Middle East.
Yeah.
2 at Bahrain, maybe, and 1 at Yas Marina.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the second of the 2 Bahrain ones because it's a new layout, much more like an oval. So I'm guessing that there won't be much overtaking there, but at the same time, there'll be safety cars galore. So
Yeah.
that should be a laugh. Anyway, it's ciao from me. I just want to say yo to Spooky out there. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see you. I'm sorry, I told you it was going to be a 9:30 start, and I was completely wrong. I meant 9:30 Italian time, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Did I know that they
Cause,
were different? No, I didn't.
cause
Uh,
fuck Greenwich, right? Fuck
yeah,
Greenwich. Yeah.
Greenwich. He says
Yeah.
Greenwich. How cute. Okay, so. Yes, so thank you, Spooky, for turning up. I'm sorry, it's been one of those. It's been rough. It's been good to talk to you again, Fabio,
Yeah. Me too.
and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one. So it's ciao from me.
Ciao, ciao.
Okay.